Yes, and the person I'm going to have come before you today is actually nationally recognized. He's here locally. He's not even from the United States, but he was fortunate to come to this country. Very strong background, very good businessman. He's also he operates his business in the community of Inslee, where our business is, and so we've built a great relationship over the years. And I'm just so honored and proud to not only know this gentleman, but to see how he's transitioned in life and has continued to just excel and do so well in business. And how many of you know the area of financial literacy is something that in the minority community we really need some significant teaching and education? And how many of you also can recognize that we need to be taught by people that look like us so that they can talk to us on a level of our understanding and interpretation? How many of you can relate to that? Yeah, so put your hands together for this gentleman. I'm going to bring him up in just a moment. Yeah, come on, you can clap for him. We applaud men, but we praise God. We applaud men, but we praise God. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our speaker. His name is Isaac Cooper. Everyone say Isaac Cooper. Yeah, Isaac is actually born in Jamaica. He is just a wonderful guy. I mean, just a real good gentleman. He's a husband, and he's also a father. He's also involved with the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. As many of you may not know this, but it was through his brain trust that he was able to navigate that organization during the pandemic when they essentially lost a lot of their funding. And through his skillfulness in money management, he was able to keep that organization afloat. Put your hands together for that. I mean, so he is, he's tested, tried, and true. Also, he knows on a first-name basis a gentleman by the name of Mr. John Hope Bryant. I don't know if you're familiar with John Hope Bryant, but if you don't, you need to know who John Hope Bryant is. He wrote a book called The Memo. Isaac told me about the book. I went and got the book. The book talks about Black Wall Street. The book talks about the Freedmen's Bank. And so John Hope Bryant, who he knows, as I said, on the first-name basis, very, very successful African-American man, very wealthy. And he and Isaac spent a lot of time together. I don't know if y'all go to the Hamptons and hang out, but I said, that's the crowd I need to run with, you know. But put your hands together for Mr. Isaac Cooper. Come on, put your hands together for Isaac Cooper as he comes. Thank you so much for taking us up on the invitation. Yeah, we can dap it up just like that. That's right. Come on. And so feel free to move around as you desire. And on behalf of Pastor George and Judith Matthews, I want to thank you to this session of Kingdom Made Moguls, and thank you for investing time in your learning curve and knowledge about money. Everyone say, let's learn about money. Everyone say, let's learn about the stock market. Everybody say, let's learn about the wealth transference. Yes, very good. And so with that being said, I'm going to yield, and I'll give the floor over to Isaac.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Excited to be here this morning. We got a good bit of information we're going to walk through. Someone said, my name is Isaac Cooper, CEO of INC Financial Consulting. Uniquely enough, what got me into the financial industry, one of the things that brought me to Birmingham was through a football scholarship. So a good man named Pat Sullivan recruited me out of Stanford University, played DB, backpedal for a living. Saw my suite mate get drafted, saw my roommate get drafted. It was really one of those things where that's what I aspired to do, essentially play in the NFL. Like that was going to bring in the resources to change the dynamic of the household that I essentially grew up in. So when injuries essentially cut that short, there was two things that I needed to recognize. One, I was treating football as a little god. And then two, there was this dynamic of money that I was very interested in understanding because I knew I still needed to change my family situation. And so I ended up transitioning to working at a Fortune 100 company. For those that are, who's familiar with college football? Raise your hand. And then you have the top 25 teams, right? And so a Fortune 100 company is a representation of the creme de la creme. These are the top companies essentially in the country. So I'm working with the Fortune 100 company. I'm the only black in the state of Alabama. So I am hearing information on what it takes to be able to budget, build one's credit, what it takes to invest. But one of the most important aspects that I learned and really experienced for the first time is that we hear a good bit about generational wealth. Who's heard about generational wealth? Who wants generational wealth? Have we ever met someone that's been a recipient of wealth? To where all they had to do was just graduate college and they had a check for $800,000. That was the first time going through the training, going through the educational seminars, that I was able to meet someone that was a recipient. And the part B of that is that they were transparent about the process.
And so now I'm able to learn and see that, okay, you are able to be in a posture of receiving harvest off of decisions that were made 45 years ago. And when he was able to receive those resources, he said, Isaac, I want to make sure I do the same thing for my grandkids. And that's what triggered the appetite to where I said, okay, yes, I'm at a Fortune 100 company. Yes, I'm at the #1 office in the country. Yes, I am the only black in the state of Alabama. But if I am the only one hearing the information on the best tactics, understanding these concepts, and applying this information, who is out here sharing it that looks like me? And so that was the frustration that triggered, okay, people need to know this information. But the more that I learned about the dynamic of the financial industry, there was an element that I just could not get jiggy with. They treated people like products. So before they got an understanding of your goals, your objectives, your principles, they just want to know how much money you make. How much money can you invest? And if that dollar amount did not hit their threshold, they're going to keep it moving. Most you're going to get probably coffee for the breakfast appointment. And so that aspect, that was something that it just didn't sit right with my spirit. And so in 2016, we said we needed to launch a business that, one, didn't have commission breath, but two, had enough empathy, regardless of where you were of income, that we could still apply acumen and get you into the incremental steps to take you from one tax bracket to the next. And so IMC Financial Consulting was launched. We're a boutique practice. As Sperlin mentioned, we're in downtown Inslee, so we're gonna be where the people reside. But with that same, we'll just say physical location, we are a national entity. And so we've been able to launch a very incredible financial literacy program within K through 12, because right now we gotta react to the information we did not receive. But when I get to the children, we're getting proactive. Let me go and sow the seed of the right principles of stewardship and understanding budgeting and cash flow, so when you do have the opportunity to start receiving these resources, you can deploy them with intentionality. That's one of the things that we're gonna talk through today, is that the main issue with our relationship with money is that we don't give it a definition. And so the issue without giving it a definition, then we're not giving it a destination. So we have to tell our money what to do. Before you can tell anybody what to do, you at least got to know his name. And so we're going to get some level of framing, of understanding of the language of money. So when we start implementing this additional language, we know how to communicate our vision, our goals, our objectives in a way to where the timeline that we have with our goal matches up with the time in which we need to have access with our money. We ready to roll today? Yeah. All right, so there is going to be a good bit of information that is going to feel like a presentation, right? You're going to see this information slide by slide, but I actually want this to feel more so like a conversation. So we're going to have a conversation that's more so going to be guided by a presentation. So with that being said, we are all at different levels of money when it pertains to our understanding of money, how long we've been making some money, how much money you've been making, right? But the most important aspect is how much you've been applying when it pertains to your understanding of money. So everyone is in a different tax bracket. Everyone has a different understanding of investing, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So I have to be very sensitive to that, but also ensure that regardless of how much money you make, we leave you with the practices and principles that you'll be able to implement in your own lives. Because the beauty of what we do, we work with folks that make $30,000 a year or even $25,000 a year. We also work with NFL players that just trying to sign $30 million contracts. We just left the University of Georgia where you got 17, 18-year-olds by today, tomorrow they're gonna receive about $1.5 million. 18, 19. And the people in their environment, the most money they made may have been $50,000. Where is the information that I need to know how to implement it? And the one thing that we found, regardless of income range, principles stay the same. And so we're gonna go through the principles you need to know, regardless of income, because the one thing about investing that I love about investing, you only use mature money for invest. Mature money. I have 3 children, oldest is 6 years old. When they are mature enough, you can tell them to do something and walk away. So the money you use to invest, you need to already know that it is destined to go somewhere else. That means I can walk away. But one of the issues specifically in the black and brown community is that we use immature money. We get caught up in the aspect that we did not learn this information, and so we feel like we're missing out, and we put premature money in there. And then when an emergency pops up, now we got to dip back into it and use that money for that. And so, again, we're going to go through the principles, and again, some good concepts for you to know, because I do want to make sure that there is tangible information for you to be able to walk away with. 2 quick things, and then we're going to jump in. One, there is a document that you have received. It should be about 3 pages, one front and back, and then another single page. This will give you, again, without knowing who you are, just some good tips, questions to ask. If you are employed, you have a 401k, 403b, or even one of their cousins, 457a, you can go to your employer, ask these questions in regards of getting a better understanding of how you are currently set up with your employment. Because one of the investment opportunities typically come through your employer. 2, if you do not have a copy of it, we are going to email over a digital version for you to be able to download and print out, hang up on the fridge, or what have you. All right, we ready to roll?
Let's do it. And also, I would say, Isaac, there a speaker on the floor in case people have any questions.
Okay.
And if you guys don't mind, you can hold your questions to the end, or would you guys like to ask questions while he's kind of giving the presentation? What would you prefer?
I like it if you ask during.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
so
a toss box microphone that someone will be able to pass along
Perfect.
during this particular session.
Perfect.
Just want to make mention of that.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
All right, we can go into the next slide, sir.
Okay.
All right, so a few things that I want you to do as protective measures. One of the things when it pertains to investments, of course, typically we just think about the stock market. All right, I want to invest in stocks. I want to invest in mutual funds. But investments occur in a number of ways. I'm pretty sure there's someone that you know that have called you within the last 2 years to say, hey, man, I got a play for you. Hey, I got an idea. Hey, I got this particular business. Hey, there's this real estate I'm thinking about. Investments occur in different faculties. And so, 1, make sure you involve a trusted advisor. Just a few quick tips for you to take away. 2, anything that's tied to money, there should be a document that reflects the direction it's going. So make sure you keep a copy of everything. Everything. Too many times we may be having a conversation, getting an understanding of one's finances, and we say, oh, you have a 401k? All right, great. So what's the status? You have your pet? You know, Isaac, I don't even know last time I looked. That's your money. That's your money. If you got your last name tied to it, it should be worth something. 3rd, make sure you ask questions. This is probably one of the sore spots specifically in the black and brown community when it pertains to understanding money. It's because oftentimes we treat money as this status through the products and the items that we buy, and we're trying to impress people that we don't necessarily even have a relationship with. And so the proximity that you should have with your coworkers, with your community members, we're not having because you're trying to show something. But the more I've been able to spend time with those in a wealthy community, the things that have been really an eye-opener for me is how transparent they are with their finances. Hey, Jimmy, man, I just lost $200,000 doing to the, hey, man, I'm just going through this. They are very transparent about their status of their finances because they know the person across from them has their best interests in mind. And so they don't suppress curiosity. So the one thing that I want you to do, especially when it pertains to understanding the language of money, is stay curious. Keep asking questions. 10 years ago when we were talking about building wealth, nobody mentioned cryptocurrency. We do now. Things changed. It's shifted. Think about just how things have evolved in regards of how we spend money. It was just cash in a card. Let somebody say, I left my wallet in the car. Yeah, use your phone. Right. Use your watch, right? So the evolution of how we are sending money is going to impact our understanding of money as well. So make sure you stay asking questions. And then when it pertains to investments, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Man, yeah, let me show you how you W money. I say this respectfully. Well, if someone's talking about, hey, show me how I can flip my money in a couple of weeks, you may need to go holler at buddy that's at the gas station, right? And so at the same time, when you think about money, make sure anything that seems too good to be true, it probably is. So again, a few tips we're gonna roll through in regards to some numerical components around this, but start where you are. One of the themes of how we work with our clients, and we say this every single time, action is greater than the amount. Action is greater than the amount. Too many times people get caught up into, hey, I need to save X amount. I want to invest X amount. But they're not doing it consistently. It's like going to the gym. If I look in the mirror and say, man, I need to work on my abs, and I do 1,000 crunches in one day, you think I'm gonna go back the next day? I don't even know if I'm gonna eat the next day. My stomach hurt. Can't even laugh for real, right? There is this, lump sum type of transaction when it pertains to your discipline.
That's right.
But it has to be consistent.
Right.
So action is greater than the amount. Don't get too caught up, I gotta have $1 million by the... No. If you need to start with $10, start with $10.
That's right.
If you need to start with $100, start with $100. And again, some of that comes from us looking at someone else thinking that we have to expedite our discipline to where they are. No, start where you are. Second is invest consistently. There is a methodology when it pertains to investing, and again, we won't get too deep, but one of them is called dollar cost averaging. And again, we'll get into the numbers on why it makes sense, but invest consistently. One of the beautiful things about the best investors, like the very best investors, you know what they are? Great savers.
That's right.
They're just going from the right pocket to the left pocket.
Right.
That's why action is greater than the amount. I just want you to get the habit going. And then we can send the dollar to a different destination. But if we don't get that discipline in place, we're gonna have some problems. Third, understand before you invest. Another way to say that is make sure you educate before you allocate. If you don't understand it, just relax. If you don't understand it, relax. Fourth, of course, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's another, component we'll get into. Next is make sure you think long term. You don't want your money invested only to be within hey, I'm about to make a flip within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Now, if you got the proper foundation financially and you can take that type of, this is a term we're gonna talk about, risk, then do so. But at the same time, there is this need for you to be thinking long term when you are processing, investing in your own life. And it's this term called inflation we're gonna come across, and that's another reason why. And then, of course, be aware of emotional decisions. And we'll get into that pretty heavily in the next few slides. Avoid debt-fueled investments. Hey, let me borrow some money so I can invest it. Wait a second. If you didn't have the money in the first place, what you borrowing for?
Right.
And then the other thing tied to investing is risk. Did you calculate that? So don't go into debt because you feel like you're missing out on an opportunity. Again, action is greater than the amount.
That's good, man.
Now, one of the beautiful things about investing is that you can get some wins. I was just looking at my portfolio coming in. I said, ooh, I can take that money and go do this with it. But I said, you know what? I'm going to reinvest in it because I don't need it right now. Check in, but don't panic. Especially during the pandemic, or even one of the things about politics, it impacts policy and sometimes impacts profits. So we got to stay up on what's going on. But there was a lot of scare when it pertained to the tariffs. Oh man, it's looking much different now. Check in, but don't panic. And then seek wise counsel. This is extremely important. Seek wise counsel. Main reason why I said with our practice, we wanted to make sure that we didn't have commission breath, because someone across from you, unfortunately, may only see you as a product, and so they're going to give you a recommendation that actually impacts their pocket versus your purpose. Wow. So make sure you seek wise counsel. All right. Does your current knowledge of money control your financial habits? Or does your emotions control how you spend money? Wow. Now, when I'm talking to someone that may be 19 and under, the second one is true. They haven't had enough life experience to get some level of knowledge on these particular concepts and topics. Now, in that same breath, if your child is a part of the Financial Freedom Project, that's not going to be the case. We're going to have them ahead of the game by the time they're in 8th grade. So now the question is, with the knowledge you have, are you applying this information? And if that is not the case, then you are using your emotions to control how you spend your money. Wow. So we just got to be very clear. You got to be very clear. And if your emotions are controlling your money, it's human. That's why discipline is probably one of the most important terms when you think about investing, because your body, your mind has to align with the goal.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, if I buy my wife some flowers and she smiles, I want to see her smile more. I'm going to want to do more of that. That was an emotional reaction. So there are certain things that essentially allow you to feel full or excited, or it triggers this type of release. Honor it, but don't give it authority. And then where are your habits created? So you got teachers, you got coworkers, you got sales folks, you got family members. This is how we have to start protecting our environment. I will quickly shuffle away from a conversation if the dialogue is on like a liability type of debt. Oh,
That's right.
I'm not in that season.
That's right. That's right.
So we have to protect our mind and our purpose, and just be aware of the folks that are impacting essentially what you're thinking. We go to the next slide. And then, of course, we all know it, that good old blue logo on your phone, good old Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? Now, this is the good thing about it. A million likes doesn't equate to $1 million. So just because someone got a lot of followers, a lot of views, and they went viral, it doesn't mean the information that they're providing is valid.
Correct.
So just keep that in mind as well. We'll go to the next slide. You can keep going, next slide. And that is a good question to ask yourself. When did I first learn about money? When did that first occur? Now, with children, usually it's that birthday party, they got money pinned on them, and then mama say, hey, give me that. I'm gonna put it up for you. They still put up somewhere. I don't know where it's at, right? And so your first memory of money is going to give you some level of indication of your relationship with money. Because over time, unfortunately, we all know, who in here had like some level of personal finance, financial education, elementary school, middle school, high school, college? Minimal. Which means that your experience with money is typically going to be tied to the moments when you didn't have it. That's when you're going to want to like learn to understand it. I love hearing people say, man, Isaac, I'm not good with math. You turn into a math expert once that check's a little short. Hold on now. I need hold on now, I did 12 and a half hours now, right? So when it's tied to that money, you switch that up. So let's be very mindful of that. All right, so as we start to build a life that we would want others to be able to replicate or duplicate, oftentimes the best way to navigate that journey is to see who's doing it. So the question you need to ask yourself is, who are the folks that are influencing my financial decisions? And then, are they living the lifestyle that you desire? Do you understand the information that they share? I cannot come in here and talk about tax loss harvesting. Let's talk about the Pythagoreans. What? Hey, let me tell you about alpha when it pertains to investing. Alpha? Is that a frat? Right? We have to make sure that you understand the information that is being transferred, because if you don't, we got a problem. 3 is the information applicable. This is part of the reasons why you have to circumvent and avoid information that is online, because they are speaking generally.
Right.
They don't know your income. They don't know your expenses. They don't know your dependents. They don't know your debt level. They don't know your goals and aspirations. So these loose recommendations on what you should do, how you should invest, what stocks are, just information. Stay curious. I don't want to suppress your curiosity, but in that same breath, it has to be applicable towards your situation. And then oftentimes these people typically, or sometimes if you could touch them, they serve as mentors. So do they display the same morals and values? You say, Isaac, you talking about money. Money actually doesn't have any moral values. Money doesn't have any emotions.
Right.
We do as people, as humans, as men and women. And so the person that is giving that money some direction, let's make sure it's a journey that aligns with the same moral and values that you have. And then do they motivate you to be the best version of yourself? And this last question is, can they hold you accountable? Can you say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z? They say, all right, well, let me see. All right, next slide. And again, we're going to get into some numbers here. But the one thing that we've seen, the 14 years I've been in the industry, you can talk about money all day, but if you don't get that mindset right, it's over with. We got to get the mind right. We have to get the mind right. I'm telling you, the best investors are great savers.
Right.
And they automate it.
That's right.
So what we're talking about right now, the part B to this is the different investment streams based off of your ability to have mature money. But if your money is not mature, it's going to limit the options you have. Just like with children. If they are not mature, there's less options they're going to have to be able to do things without me watching them.
Right.
Let me go outside. Man, I'm finna watch you. Hey, you went outside the gate last time. And so we got to keep that in mind. Stages of change. I'll be really quick here. If you're not ready, don't move. If you don't understand it, don't move. Now, there's this phase of, all right, but I do want to get ready. Now it's time to get curious. Gather the information, get the education, start asking questions. Wealthy people spend more time thinking about the decision than they do making the decision.
That's right. That's right. That's good.
Because when it's time to roll. And we have that skill, especially as black and brown folks. Once we make a decision, we're gonna move. So I do want to make sure that you know that there are phases of making a decision that you have to take into consideration. And if you're not at peace, or if you don't understand what is in front of you, don't move. But when you do, start doing some research, speak to more folks, you get into that action. Now there is just a level of oversight to ensure that the timing and the direction in which you start sending that money is going there. And then you turn and never look back. It's time to go. Now it's on to the next thing. Next slide. All right. Oh, it's my favorite slide.
It's a cuss word right here.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cuss word.
They're like, oh, man, just get to the investing part, man. I ain't trying to talk about no budget. That ain't it. Rich people don't budget. What?
Can I jump in here?
Yes, sir. Please. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Are you good? I'll tell you a funny story with budgeting that I had February 15, 1986, just to give him a moment to get some water and things. My father was killed, and when he was killed, my mother and my father were divorced. And so at that time, my mother was raising myself, 2 other siblings, and I had an older brother who's unfortunately passed away. And once my dad was killed, we went through this litigation process. That was part of what motivated me to become an attorney. And after the attorneys got their fee, which was like 50% of the money, I had $50,000 left. That became the budget that went to my college education. So here's what my financial advisor came and told me at the time. I was a 14, 15-year-old kid, didn't know where my life was headed. I was very frustrated. I was very angry. I was depressed. I was in anxiety. I was missing my dad. I was distressed. Everything in my life felt like it was coming apart. And I was getting ready to go to high school. Everyone say high school. Yeah, so my budget for college, everyone say college, was $50,000. And my tuition for the college I wanted to go to was more than my budget. So here's what he became the best man at my wedding when I got married at 24 to my wife. When I was 14, and here's what he said: can you budget when you work to save $20 a month in a growth stock mutual fund for the rest of your life? I said, well, I don't know about the rest of your life, but I can put aside $20 a month. But what he was doing was very similar to what Isaac was just mentioning. He was dollar cost averaging my income into an investment every month. And through doing that, from the age of around 14, 15, I was able to keep saving money, save money, save money. And mind you, I was working, but as I was working, like 83% of all Americans, what do they live? Paycheck to what? Paycheck, right. That means you get income, and because of the mindset, everyone say mindset. Once we get a check, we take the check back down to zero. That's a poverty mindset. That's a poor mentality. So what he's saying is, and I'll turn the floor back over to him in just a moment, we have to shift our mind. Everyone say we must shift our mind. Yeah, and so I was dollar cost averaging that $20 a month, and I noticed when I got ready to go to college, all the money I had in the world was that $50,000 and the money that I had dollar cost averaged that entire period of time. But it was budgeting essentially when I didn't have much income, but while I was a young boy, though I was making money, sacking groceries and doing other things, I was only able to create somewhat of an investment budget. And from that day to this one, I really haven't stopped. I've had very difficult financial processes and problems along the way, but investing as a discipline has always been something I've tried to conform myself to in that particular setting. So give the floor back over to Isaac. Y'all put your hands together for what he shared with us thus far. It's all yours, sir.
So I'll follow up. I'll ask everyone this question. Let's say I gave everyone in here $20 and you needed to take someone to the movie theater. Now, unfortunately, they didn't have any money and the $20 is all you got. And as you're walking into the movie theater, they're like, hey, we finna get 2 popcorns, some Skittles, a soda. Now, we going to the movies in Vestavia now, not the dollar. We finna get soda. Now, as you're walking up, what are you saying to yourself? Just some class participation. There we go. There we go. There we go. Hey, that was very easy to do. Now, the beauty part of that exercise is that we thought about an event. We thought about the numbers tied to the event before the actual event. That's a budget.
Wow.
What do I see for the future? What is the potential cost of these events that I prioritize? Do I have the money now? And will I have it then? Now, uniquely enough, tied to our life design, there's certain things that we can forecast. We like to call this hard, fast bills. If you don't pay it, they can turn it off or take it away.
Right.
That's that power bill. That's that car note, right? So there's certain expenses that we know. And of course, revenue, that's the thing that is hitting your bank account once a month, twice, I don't know your payment frequency, which is your net income. We have to ensure, and this is where budgets actually have a speed bump. There's a life event that you didn't expect. And there's a dollar amount tied to it. Something happened to your car.
Wow.
Something happened to a family member. This is the reason why that word that is bolded is important. It has to be reevaluated on a periodic basis. A budget is not, hey, this is how everything is going to go. It's going to be a budget is more so you identifying what the priorities are, because you know things are not going to be, we'll just say, perfect in that original design. Because the moment someone puts together a financial budget, hey, I think inflation is going to be this, I think this, the next day, something's going to change. So it's not to say my finances are going to be perfect. It's just when life is imperfect, what did I identify as our priorities? Next slide. And of course, why? That is ultimately making sure that you have a game plan for your money before your money has a game plan for you.
Right.
Because there's been a number of times I had some money that I received, and I didn't want to think about what I want to do with it. And then I received it, and then next thing I know, I'm like, man, how did I get in this store?
Right.
The money already had a game plan for me. That's why we got to give our money directions. Next slide, please. We're going to keep going. All right, so now when we think about that movie theater example, ultimately there are certain goals, objectives, priorities that you've established that we need to ensure is still within that framing, that we can tie this investment goal, this investment appetite, some of the opportunities around investing, we could tie it to that. And so when you think about setting goals, this is a good acronym, SMART. Make sure it's specific. Make sure that it is measurable. Make sure it's something that is attainable. So if you make $50,000 a year, you say, I'm gonna save $50,000 in the next 6 months. That's not attainable, sir. Make sure it's results-oriented, right? So now let's start rewarding this discipline. Let's start rewarding the things, rewarding yourself with some of the things that you would want to do in the future. And then, of course, last, let's make sure it's time-driven. So this is a good framing as you start thinking about your financial goals, your investment goals, your budgeting goals, to ensure that what you've identified as a goal has gone through a vetting process to essentially be legit. All right, so where do I start? We're going to start with income. Next slide. So ultimately, income represents the money that is hitting your bank account. So one of the exercises that I will share with you all, you'll see this in a future slide, is that as we get into investing, the last thing I'm going to do is get up here and start talking about mutual funds, ETFs, different stocks. That is premature. This is the foundation you have to have. I'm telling you.
That's good. From
athletes to real estate, it doesn't matter who they are. Attorneys, business owners, physicians, all across the country. Their investments get disrupted because they don't do the basics.
Wow.
Yes, you're making a lot of money, but you're not managing the money you're making. And so the money that you have deployed to be invested for the future, remember one of the initial points said long term, is now being disrupted. And the eighth wonder of the world, a good smart man named Einstein pointed out, which is called compounding interest. Now you've interrupted the ability for your money to grow at the rate it should. Wow. So as we go through this process, I just want to keep hammering down on the foundation that we have to establish. So one, we need to get a great understanding of how much are we getting paid after tax? What is that net income? Not gross. All right, we may have some 1099 folks in here, and taxes ain't something we like to think about. But you got to prepare for it. Gross versus net income. What's in that bank account? 2, when? So first was how. Second is when. How much am I getting paid and when am I getting paid? Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Because now there's this thing when it pertains to timing. Budgeting is how much. Cash flow is when. So the timing is important when it pertains to the money that you're going to invest in the future. And then third, how do you get paid? Right? Direct deposit, paper check, cash. You got folks getting paid in Bitcoin, you never know. Next slide. And then, as I mentioned, I want you to actually pull the last 3 months of your expenses. We just did this exercise at the University of Georgia. And as you know, these young men making some money. I said, I want y'all to pull it up now. Log into your bank account, pull it up the last 3 months. They started cussing. Man, I ain't know I was spending it. This is a great reflection of what exactly is going on when it pertains to your finances. Look over the last 3 months. Highlight the expenses you want to continue. Don't highlight the expenses you need to discontinue. Because as we start talking about investing money for the future, unless you receive the lump sum, you're going to have to use what we call discretionary dollars. So before we identify which money needs to be invested, we need to see what you've been doing with your money historically. Right. What's been going on? Because the things that you're doing with your money, the decisions you're making with your money, there is a lifestyle that you have established. So I see so many times people walk away from a meeting or from a seminar and say, I'm going to change this. But they never audited their lifestyle. So the goal doesn't agree with their lifestyle. You're going to have to make some changes. One thing I will say, if you were taking notes around the budgeting slide, I do want to point this out. Because there is an aspect of emotions that we recognize as a team that usually when folks start to budget, they first think about what do I need to remove, right? What do I need to stop doing? I actually want you to identify the things in your budget you want to continue to do first. I want you to get a positive relationship with the term budget. I want you to think, oh my goodness, I have to remove something. All right, so as you look over those last 3 months of expenses, does your current level of expenditures allow you to, what's that term there? Save. Because the best investors are great savers. Boom. Right. So as you're looking at this information, and again, as I mentioned, you can use a highlighter, which expenses are useful, and then which expenses are useless. Keep going. Here is a quick rule of thumb that we've seen in a number of different capacities, which is this budgeting format. What's the tool? What are the percentages? 50, 30, 20. Now, the good thing, 50, 30, 20 adds up to what?
100.
All right, so that means 100% of our money needs to be accounted for. So 50% going towards needs, 30% going towards wants, 20% going towards savings. Now, is this the rule of thumb for everyone in here? No. Somebody may say, hey, I'm actually, I'm living with my parents, so actually only 20% goes towards my needs. So I can put 50% towards my savings. But again, this is a good rule of thumb. The beauty of it that I love more than anything, that it adds up to 100. That means every dollar is accounted for. Every dollar should have a definition. If your dollar is left dormant, you're losing.
Wow.
Isaac, how am I losing? It's called inflation. All right, next slide. Now, I ain't gonna talk to you like Samuel, but I'm gonna give you that look. You put your money in your savings account, I'm gonna need you to just leave it there. Leave it there. Don't be commingling. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned before, action is greater than the amount. When you think about savings, don't establish a goal, because in that SMART acronym, the A represents attainable. I don't want you sleeping in your car eating ramen for the next 6 months. Like, hey, there's an aspect of life that I want you to be able to enjoy. All right, next slide, please. All right, so as we talk about savings, man, Isaac, man, get to this. We will. Because that third one is called transition savings.
Wow.
Because something that is in transition, that means it's in motion. Right? It has another direction, another destination. So there's 3 levels of savings. 1, there's an emergency fund. 2, there's short-term savings, in which we established as a WAM, W-A-M, which what I like to call walking around money. And then 3rd, you gotta have just a little bit of cash in your pocket. You just never know. You can tap to pay all these places until their Wi-Fi go out. All right, and then 3rd, you got transition savings. Next slide. So with an emergency fund, we've all been there. Something came up, and you're like, man, if I did not do that, I'm like, if I didn't buy that, it happens. It happens. It happens. Now, how can we avoid it? Next slide. So emergency fund, back in the day, we've all heard the 3 to 6 months of bill paying ability saved up in cash. They established that norm before the pandemic. We like to start with 6. And if you're black and brown, 6 to 12 months.
Right.
Certain things that come up, car repairs, home repairs, unexpected travel, emergency medical expenses, unemployment, going back to the pandemic, right? We had to sit down for a little bit, so unfortunately folks were impacted. And then just random unexpected expenses. Next slide. And then you have that short-term savings, good old walking around money. So that's some fun money, right? Date night, family night, some anticipated medical expenses, expected travel. Now, you see, I don't have credit cards for expected travel now. If it's expected, now, if you got some points or something, then we can talk about it. But it don't start defining some of your fun activities with debt. All right, and then you got transition savings. So this is where some of those long-term investments are going to have a seat in a particular role. We want to strive for at least 20%. Now, a good bit of you, who in here is currently employed?
What?
Employed?
Okay, forward.
401k, 403b, 457a, pension, right? So there is already a vehicle set up for you that is speaking to your last name and social security number for the future. Now, how you're funding it, what your direction is, target date funds, we'll get into all of that. But ultimately, you may already be on a pathway towards 20% because of your employer benefits. So if you have a 401k, 403b, 457a pension, something of that nature, that is a good start. We hear it all the time when it pertains to saving, take it off the top. So for those that are employed, who in here does have a retirement? 401k, 403b, Okay, question. Whenever the money is placed in the account, do you got to call somebody? Do you got to click a button? So it just happens automatically. What we've seen all across the country, the largest accounts individuals have been able to save are typically their 401k. Not including the match, just what they've been able to save. Why is that? Automated.
Automation, that's right.
They take it out before you can touch it.
That's right.
And when things are automated, typically your emotions aren't involved. Can't get involved. So if we've been able to identify that the largest account you've been able to set aside for additional responsibility is automated when it pertains to this part of your planning and investing, let's look at adopting that philosophy to ensure that your emotions don't get involved with what you have established as your long-term game plan. One quick question.